Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Seat at the Table. I am your host, Miss Stephanie. Today, we will be discussing the powerful struggle of life after loss. We're here to honor our loved ones and have a heartfelt conversation about grief, healing, faith, and learning how to move forward after experiencing loss. Tonight, I am joined by three amazing women who have agreed to sit in this conversation and share their personal journeys and their personal stories. So pull up a chair and have a seat at the table. Welcome, ladies. Welcome to A Seat at the Table. We have Melissa, Kern, and Natea. Can you guys tell us a little bit about yourself? And we'll start with Natea.
Sure. As you said, Stephanie, my name is Natea. I live in New Jersey. I am a mom of one. My son is, I believe he's going to be 33. I stopped counting after a while. And so I am a serial entrepreneur. I have a tax business, but I also have a 9 to 5. I'm an HR professional. Actually, I'm a serial entrepreneur, to be honest with you. But my main business right now is taxes, and then I will be branching out and starting my own line and a couple of things I dibble and dabble in. I'm going to be starting, like, going into more of jewelry and stuff like that. And neither one of them meet or marry or are the same, but I feel like one is very intense and heavy, and the other one is a little bit more playful and fun. So I'm trying to balance out the things that I do. But yeah, so I'm a serial entrepreneur, love entrepreneurship, love being a resource, love what it is that I do. And so yeah, that's pretty much that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
Thank you. Karen, do you
Okay.
mind sharing a little bit about yourself and introducing yourself?
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm Karen. In my social medias, I'm Karen of Canvas Queen, a company I started in 2017 after graduate school. I went into that, and Canvas Queen basically is a mobile paint party company experiencing and inspiring young minds or old minds for creativity and bringing out their inner artist. Besides that, I am an educator in the school system. I'm going into my 21st year of teaching. So in that gamut, I'm as well as an art teacher there. So I've kind of did that and dabble in different avenues as far as before I did arts like I do. I'm a graphic designer, so I still dabble in that in freelance companies with the government. Not to mention, I am working on a book about basically how to paint through the pain, and because we all have pain that we go through, and my paint through my pain is basically any type of canvas that I have or paper, paint, ink. Then it filters into trying to work in different avenues of what I'm trying to do as far as eventually having me a little like state of the art. More or less like a foundation that I'm working on as well. Not to mention, I'm a single parent to a 16-year-old.
Okay, thank you so much. I love the fact that you said paint through your pain. I love it. I do. And that's what we need, something to put that energy into. So I appreciate you sharing. Melissa, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yes. Hello, I am Melissa Revel. I am an educator in Charles County Public Schools in Maryland. Um, been in the teaching, but now I'm getting ready to go into the admin atmosphere starting August. So that'll be a different change for me. I am a mother of three adult children. My oldest is 25, my son is 23, and my daughter is 20. I am a native of North Carolina. We moved here about 10 years ago. My husband got a job with the government. Been married 26 years. So that's a little bit about me.
Love it. I love it. I love it. As I am interviewing folks and I'm talking to different people and I listen to everybody's story and it's just like everyone who I come in contact with, I have something in common with them. I have and when we get on a podcast and we get to talking to women, it's always something that another woman on the podcast can connect to the next woman for with or that they have in common with. So I love that. So before I start asking, we get into our conversations. Let me just say that I like to do a little icebreaker with my guests. So one thing I like to ask is, what is something you're grateful for today? So we're, and when I say today, I don't want to, I'm not saying Monday, Tuesday, what today, because I know it's easy to look back on this week to say, well, on Monday I found $100,
Mhm.
but we're here, it's Thursday night. And so tell me, what is something you're grateful for tonight? I'll go first. Tonight, I am grateful that you three ladies agreed to join me to do this podcast. I am grateful to be able to hear your stories, and I am grateful to get to know you guys a little more. Melissa, could you go first and share something you're grateful for today?
I'm grateful for one thing, have shelter, AC because it's hot outside. That's a big thing. And then I'm grateful that I'm able to be here because this is technically like my first time actually sharing about the grief process and everything. So I'm grateful to be able to have the strength to do that.
Okay. Karen?
Just I would say grateful just to open my eyes and have activities of my limbs and to be able to continue to do what God has given me to do. Just pour into people. That's the main thing.
Thank you. Natea?
I was second what Karen said, but also one of the things I'm grateful for is peace. Peace is so it's just so important to have that, with life being so chaotic, when you can just turn off the noise and just turn off life and just have peace. That's a blessing in itself. So in this moment and today, as we speak, I'm thankful for peace.
And a lot of people don't know how important peace is. I remember a time in my life, I'm not going to say well, yeah, I will say, I remember there was a time in my life where I lived in chaos. I lived in, everything was so chaotic to the point where I thought that was a normal function to wake up every day into chaos. And it wasn't nothing like somebody was beating me upside my head, but it was just a season where it was like always something going on, always something. Especially I was a single mom raising my kids, and I had 7 kids. So, yeah, we always had something going on. So it was like that chaos. So once I found that peace, I was like, Lord, nobody can come take this piece from me. Now them babies grown and they call me and I be like, hold up, slow down. Wait a minute, I need you to take 5, go try to figure that out, calm down, and then call me back. Because sometimes they'll call me thinking they talking to how mom say one of their little friends. And I'm like, you can't talk to me like that. If you want to share with me, you gotta share it with me like you talking to your mama. So I'm very grateful for peace, sir. Thank you, ladies, for sharing.
Mhm.
My next question is, would you feel comfortable sharing about your loss and your experience? And I'm asking that question. I know you guys are here, so you probably like, we're here. Of course we
Mhm.
are. However, some of the questions can get a little deep tonight. So I do want to say, if there is something that you are uncomfortable with sharing, or if it is something that you feel like you don't want to share or is triggering to you, please feel free to decline to answer that question.
Okay.
So my first question, and Natea, you
Yes.
can you can answer this. You can go first. How did loss change your life?
Um, and just to really quickly, just to kind of give you background on my loss. In 2023, I lost my brother to cancer, and then in 2024, I lost my mom, right? So I had loss back to back, and I definitely wasn't prepared. I think for me, losing my mom, like anyone losing their mom, that changes your perspective on life and just how you show up in every day. And so one of the things that I vowed to my mom, when we were having her celebration life, is I told her I would continue to try to show up to be the best person that I can be. And so I want to make sure that I continue and honor that. And I want to make sure that I honor what it is that I share with her. So I think for me, losing my mom just made me, one, obviously, be more cognizant of just like spending time with people and really being able, connecting with people and making sure that you are having that time, because I definitely was not expecting to lose my mom. I went on vacation and lost her while I was on vacation with my son. So it was definitely, and I just wanted her to wait. And, I guess, God has his timing. But For me, just going hard, really trying to keep my word and showing up to be the best person I can be, because I know my mom would not want me to do anything other than.
Mhm.
And so, and also because there were so many things that I wanted to show her while she was here that I didn't get a chance to show her. And so I'm hoping that I can still be able to do it. And even though she's not here, she's watching me. I can still show her, right? Without her, I mean, I can still show her and still be the person that I wanted to be, while she was here. And, I know I can't do the things that I wanted to do with her, but at least I can, like, at least make her proud of me while she's, while she's not here. So I guess going hard and just really trying to be that person that I intended to be is kind of how that changed my life. Yeah, I would say so. Just dealing with the fact that, I have to be honest with my emotions and just being transparent with how I'm feeling. And, sometimes I feel lost, but, I brush that off and I try to step fast so I can continue not to stay stuck, because it's so easy to be able to become stuck. So and I hope that answers your question, but I think that's what I would say.
Thank you. I appreciate you sharing and being vulnerable.
Hmm.
Melissa, do you mind sharing a little bit about your loss and how did it change your life?
Yes. Um, well, the big loss that I had was my dad, but in 2019, his mother passed, which I feel like those two were like my two close people. My grandmother, 2019, she passed. In 2022, he passed, and I'm a daddy's girl, and so that process was a lot. But I am grateful. I will say this: I'm grateful because 2008, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And anybody that knows about pancreatic cancer, the risk of living is very rare, small,
Hmm.
and he survived it. What his was what ended his life was congested heart failure. So I was able to have my dad from 2008 to 2022. So I will take that as a blessing. But of course, any loss, you still do not want to be around here having to deal with loss. But I do look at that as a blessing. Well, one of the things for me that I look at is continue the legacy. Um, I know how my dad is. I know how my dad was. He always went hard for the family. So he was like, don't stop. I mean, that was one of the things I still remember when I moved here. I had that conversation with him before we moved. I was like, Dad, is it okay? He was like, I can go visit you anywhere. You'll be fine. You're good. Go. Don't hold your life up for me. And so I remember those conversations. So that's what I think about is like, okay, I got to keep going for him. I keep continuing legacy. So that's what motivates me.
Okay. Fern, would you mind sharing a little bit about your loss and how did it change you?
After listening to the ladies, it's hard to pinpoint mine in the years that I've experienced. I mean, I've had a loss from my grandmother to um, my fiance to my latest grievance was my brother and my dog a week apart from each other. So each aspect that I have experienced through each loss, if it was a dog or it was my grandmother, or my fiance, or my brother, it was a different experience for everyone. But the latest one I would say between the week span from my brother and my dog, that was a different type of experience. Of course, when it comes to an animal, there's a different type of feeling. I've had my dog Cereal for like 5 years, so having him kind of like chilling, having the way to be around him, he was like the man of the house, and to see him not come in the house, or when I come in the house, not to see him anymore, that's a different type of experience. But within having my brother pass, within the time my dog passed, and then me also having my grievance of me being injured on the job at the same time, I've had grievance in so many different areas. And for me to expand after all that, it's more or less like, everybody's only promised but so much on life. And every single day you have to live life to your fullest. And you live the life the way you want to live it, but also know that you have to take everything like a grain of salt and make sure that you are, kind of experiencing everything you're supposed to experience, but also treasure every single day that you have. And besides just praying and just keeping motivated and still working and still doing what I need to do, it's trying to find outlets to work through the pain that you have, and just seeing, okay, well, that person lived their life and they lived it to the best of their ability, but you find ways to make sure you keep on going on, and just seeing the goodness of everything that you do. And it just filters. You can't kind of stay in that pity party. You just accept the times that you have with a person and think about the times that you've had, and just experience the best blessing that you're supposed to have. In a nutshell, my brother now, he just had 5 heart attacks, and I'm trying to help him through that. So like I said, it's grievance and over grievance over grievance. It's just, you have to take things where you just be positive and you move forward, and you take every step that you can actually take one day at a time, and just let you know that you're here for a reason. Everybody has their own reason, but also just live the best that you can live, and to just find the blessing in everything that you do, and know that it's a blessing and it's also a lesson at the same time.
It is. It definitely is. I always say one of my biggest things is there's a lesson and there's a blessing and a lesson. That's like one of the things that I really live by. For me, I lost my son about 5 years. It's been about 5 years now. I can't believe time is going. Like, it still seems fresh, but it's been about 5 years now. And so my son was traveling with some friends, and they were in a car accident. And it was four of them in a car accident. Everybody passed away except for one person. So that changed my life in a way that I never thought would change. That's my son, my baby. I carried him. I'm like, what? And I just remember getting that call, and I work in education as well. So imagine being with someone else's child, other children around me, and I'm getting a phone call at work like, your son passed away. And I'm looking at all these other kids. Oh, Miss Stephanie pulling from me. And in the middle of them coming to me, pulling from me, I'm getting this phone call, and I'm like, what? Are you serious? So it changed my life. It was a season where I was just like, this can't be. It was unreal to me. It was unreal. And so it just, yeah, it shook me. It shook me, And so every day I just continue to try, like you said, work through it, move through it, but it's a game changer. It's a game changer. And I won't say too much right now because I know we'll have other questions, and I'll speak on it some more. But that was a game changer. But I also want to say that even though we are talking about the grieving process, I don't think people realize that we grieve in so many ways. We don't only grieve death. You see, some people grieve the loss, like you said, an animal, a loss of a job, a loss of a divorce, a lost relationship. You know how many people are walking around right now grieving lost relationships. And that's the one thing that when I'm scrolling on TikTok that I find to be very interesting, that it's so many people out here talking about the family dynamics and how families are cutting each other off, and you have children not speaking to parents, parents not speaking to children, people who just like, no, I'm not dealing with my family at all, and we normalizing that. But at the same time, as we're normalizing that, it is a grievance. It's you to cut your mom off, and your mom is still living, and you're not talking. Yeah, it may be something mentally, it may be a healthy space for you, but it is a grief. It is a grieving part of it, because just like we're all moms here, so you know how I feel to carry a child, you know how I feel to want your child around you. So I couldn't imagine, even though me and my mom, we go through our moments, but I couldn't imagine and going the rest of my life and not talking to my mother and knowing that my mom is still here on this earth. So I just wanted to point that out, that we do grieve, but it's just grieving does not always come in a form of death. It comes in different forms. So thank you, ladies, for sharing. What was the most difficult part of the early grieving process for you guys? Rather, it was, again, a divorce. I heard you say your dog. It could be a family member. When you're grieving, what was the early process like for you? And anyone can start and jump in and answer the question.
I mean, I could respond. So for me, um, My brother was obviously different than my mom, right? So my brother, that was a very intense experience because, you know, I hadn't seen my brother in a while. He lives, in another state. And, he called us, told us he had throat cancer. And then he said that he was getting better. So we thought everything was fine. Next thing we knew, we were getting a call from the hospital saying that we needed to come see him. We were trying to get him home. They said he wasn't healthy to fly. So we had to go out there. I went out there to go see my brother and wound up bringing him home in a box. So I wasn't prepared for him to be leaving us. Like I went to go see him. And when I went to go see him, if you've ever seen somebody deteriorating from cancer, that is a sight that you would never really want to see. Like, especially when it's someone really, really close to you. And that's my oldest brother. I'm the second oldest. And so dealing with that, the beginning process with my brother, it was a lot emotionally on me because I wanted to do him right. I wanted to celebrate his life right, and he didn't have any health life insurance, so that financial burden of having to manage that was also a lot. And I just cried a lot cried a lot with my mom, and I just was going through a lot of emotional ups and downs and turmoils, and it was a lot, right? And so unbeknownst to me, not realizing my brother's death was preparing me for my mother's, right? So they literally left almost a year apart, right? So my brother died on August 4th and my mother died on August 18th, right? And I always say he took her with her. He took her with him. So when it came to my mom, I was kind of already I had just went through this a year ago, so I kind of knew what to do. And so it was hard to I really felt like I didn't really have anybody at that time because I was crying on my mom's shoulder about my brother, and it was my mom. So for me, the early stages were it was hard for me, but at the same time, because I was the only one that really, and it's when you talk about family, family becomes divided. People don't want this person there. I don't like that. I'm just like, ain't nobody got time for none of that. This is not about you or you. This is about my mother. So even if it would have been my sister, I'm like, oh well, I guess we'll talk later. I am not going to not do what I want to do for her because you have feelings about this one and this one. So for me, it was, fighting through, and then it's also learning, that certain things may not be in your ability to handle. So you got to go through this person, like from a life insurance standpoint or whatever the case may be. So it was a lot. It was just a lot, and I was in the mode of go. So I didn't have the time to really sit down and cry. And then when I did cry, I cried so much that I just got tired of it. My nose was stuffy. I got headaches. Like I didn't want to deal with it. I just was like, I don't want to be in this space anymore. It affected my relationship and other things like that. But the beginning stages was really a lot because I didn't have the time to really grieve. And because it was, okay, your mom is deceased now. You have to make preparations she was cremated, so to cremate her. So for me, it was just I didn't have time to grieve until like several weeks after the fact. And so yeah, it was just a heavy lift. It was a lot. So I don't think people realize when you pass on or before you pass on, you really should have things in order because this is such a heavy lift for people who are left to deal with your passing. So that was my experience with just dealing with my brother and my mom in that capacity. Yeah. And
You
just
said,
trying to say that
I'm sorry.
again.
No, go ahead.
No, and just the only thing, just trying to deal with the fact that it was a lot of just like trying to stay focused on getting what I need to be done. But I also had I also was dealing with a little bit of not a little bit, but a lot of guilt because I wasn't there. Right, my mom passed away when I was on vacation. I'm on vacation, having a good time, and my mom is leaving this earth. Like I grapple with that a lot. So there are just a lot of things that I probably haven't dealt with. I know I haven't dealt with, but yeah, that was what the beginning stages were like for me, just dealing with the fact that I wasn't there, and all those other things. And I don't know if I tried to fix that by making sure that I did the best when it came to her celebration of life. To like, see, mom, I do love you. Like I do care. Like I don't know if I was trying to like supplement for that, but that was my experience.
You said a couple of powerful things. One, when you said it's important to have some things in order, to have your affairs in order, and we don't like to, a couple of things I could say about that. One, we don't like to think about that. A lot of us don't like to think about death. Two, I don't, and this is just my opinion, and I'm sure somebody's going to have a different opinion just watching this video. In our community, in our culture, we don't like to talk about death, right? And so we're not being told that we should be getting our affairs in order. We should be writing these things down. You should have a notebook where your kids are not scratching around to see what's your pen in this, where's this, where's this, where's that. And the most important thing, we don't talk about how important it is to have that life insurance policy or something in effect. And so it's becoming normalized where everybody is doing GoFundMe's and they're trying to get money. And it's no disrespect to a GoFundMe. I remember when I lost my son, one of my coworkers did a GoFundMe for me. And, I was thankful for that, but I was also thankful that I had in my already earlier on said I need life insurance, and I had those policies set up for my son. I also was thankful that I was in a season where I was maturing more and knew what it meant to have a little savings put away to the side. So it was like if the insurance policy wouldn't have came through, and the insurance company, they do take you through it when they get ready to release some money to bury someone, but I had the money put to the side with, so if it didn't come through, I was still able to do something for my child. So I think that's very powerful. And then I heard you say you didn't have time to think about who don't want to be there, or who doesn't want to be around such and such because they dislike each other. And again, like I said, it goes back to all of this stuff of we're normalizing cutting our family off, and we're normalizing doing all of these things where it wasn't like that, and what we should normalize is getting past just saying our family at funerals. Our funerals have now become our family reunions, but that's a different topic for a different podcast. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying that but we are normalizing that. So I do appreciate you sharing, and also I know for me the difficult part in the early stages of death and grieving was I got all these kids and their brother just died. I got this one breaking down over here. I got this one breaking over down here. How can mama break down and cry? Because if I break down and I'm the foundation, then the whole ship crumbles. Everything falls apart. So the most difficult part for me was not being able to, and then I was in denial too. So, being in denial and not being able to grieve and making sure I'm here for everybody. So that was my difficult part of my grieving, my early part of grieving. Karen, would you like to share?
Who you said a lot. That is what happens. That is what happens when you go through it. I mean, I remember when we were planning my brother's funeral, we had to do exactly what she was just talking about, just trying to get everybody together and see what thing was going to happen and what was prepared. But my thing is where they found my brother when he passed away, because he passed away to do what he wanted to do. My sister had took a picture of it, and that was once I didn't want to see that. I mean, my whole thing is when I'm going through grievance, I want to remember them how they were when they were enjoying life, and I didn't really see where they found them at. So the main thing was, okay, in my head I was like, okay, did me and him have a good relationship when he passed? What did I miss, or what did I want to say to him? Because sometimes you don't get a chance to say goodbye. And so that's like the biggest thing of making sure that you go through that process in the beginning. And then, I'm thinking about his grandkids and, my niece and nephew and my his great grandkids, and making sure that was fine. And then I'm being asked to speak at the funeral, and I'm like, oh my God, like then I got to get ready for that. Regardless of me being an educator, I still get nervous standing up in front of a group of people. So besides me grieving my brother and have a best relationship, but you can't pick and choose your family members, but you want to make sure you still help them out and you're in their lives and you do things for them. Then I had to go through that transition of actually standing up in front of people I haven't seen since, I guess, the last funeral. I had to collect myself and come up with something that I wanted to actually say about my brother. So I had to deal with that. And then before the funeral actually happened, then my dog passed away. So I had to deal with that too. So the main part is just like holding up to make sure I'm fine, because the dog didn't pass with me. He passed with my daughter in her room. So besides mommy kind of dealing with her brother, I had to make sure my daughter was fine and make sure she was straight because she was going through what she was going through. So it's just a matter of just having those different steps to try to kind of be strong mom, to make sure she's okay, and then also step in and make sure my mom is okay, because that's another child that she had to bury, because previously my brother from a few years before that passed away. So it's just kind of like stretching myself in all different areas, almost like you're stretching like a gummy bear or something like that, to make sure that everybody's taken care of. But when the dust settles and you're by yourself, you got to collect yourself and get yourself together and make sure that you're healed also to the best of your ability. And you show that big hat in front of everybody else when you're at the funerals and then you're at the wakes. But then you got to make sure you're strong for your mom, and then make sure you're strong for your daughter, because that had to go on. So it's just trying to understand and impact everything, and then just kind of work your way through it. And what kind of helps me through everything of grief and loss is, like I said, it's just I paint through the pain. I do, I find outlets and I find things to actually do that kind of help me work through my grief and my loss. And then that's how I came up with the series that I'm working on, Paint Through Pain. So I'm doing art shows and I'm getting that stuff together and working on books to kind of help me find my way through my pain. That's the best way I know how to go through it, to help myself go on and then just find a way through that force field to make myself feel like I'm okay and I'm healed.
Mhm. And I like the fact that you're taking your pain and you're making it into a purpose, and you're making it into a healing herb for other women. So to paint through the pain, because again, we internalize so much. Some people don't have an outlet. Some people don't have people they can go speak to. Some people don't believe in going to therapy. We were taught to internalize what goes on in this house stays in this house. So, and we were taught not to talk about our feelings. So to be able to express that through painting and other avenues, I think that that's something marvelous that you're doing, and keep up the good work. Melissa, would you
Thank
like
you.
to share?
Sure. Mine was a mixture of, I guess, the processes that they say that you go through for grief. Um, for my dad, I look at it this way. I was angry a lot. And it was more, to be honest with you, I was angry at God, in certain situations with this. Um, I have my mother and I have my dad, two-parent household, and I'm closer to my dad than I am my mom. We communicate every day and everything, but it's just like I was my daddy's girl. And then there was things when we grew up that I know that my daddy kind of gravitated to me more so than my sister. Um, and so that's kind of how we got that bond, as what how we were so close together. And then when I had my kids, which are his grandkids, he was sold out for his grandchildren. Um, when I say sold out, he's always taking them stuff, taking them places and all this other stuff. So the one thing that I remember is we had to put him in hospice. Um, and so I was here in Maryland and he was in North Carolina. And so I made it a point to go to North Carolina when they actually moved him. So I took some time off of work to move him to hospice, and spent some time with him. And I remember my oldest was like, "Mom, do you think I need to go?" Because she was trying to work, and I was like, "No, I think this is just we just taking him and putting him in hospital. You got some time, like 2 more weeks, that you can come down with us." And she was like, "Okay." Well, that was the last time we saw him, is when we were there. Because he we put him in hospice and he only lasted 8 days. And we literally were getting ready to come see him that weekend. Um, so not being there and feeling like he died alone, because my sister wasn't there, because they called him. We was just, and we literally had a conversation with him too. They always FaceTime me. And so they FaceTime me when he was there. And of course, he wasn't feeling good and everything. And I remember, and 2 hours later is when he passed. And so I felt that guilt of not being there.
Mhm.
And then I felt that guilt of, okay, God, my daughter, he didn't get to see my youngest graduate. He wasn't there for this. We weren't there. Why did you do this? But then at the end of the situation, when I look back on things, my dad was kind of preparing us, and I didn't realize it. Because we would be like, sit down with me when we were over there. I need you to look at this. I need you to this is where this account is. This is what such and such. I mean, it would be like months. And he didn't show the pain as much. We didn't realize how much pain he was in. So when I say it helped us out when it came time to bury him because he had already talked to us about all of this stuff. Um, and I was more focused on the anger and then my kids. Are they okay? They just lost their grandfather. Are they okay? Checking on them to the point where I'm gonna be honest with you, I probably was a zombie or just walked through the motions for a good year. Um, so, but I did, and I ended up doing therapy. I did try to do the grief share. The grief share didn't work, but I found a therapist, and it worked out. God worked it out. She had lost her dad too, so it was just so helpful for me, and it helped me to grow and to learn to go through all these feelings and these emotions and tune out some people because I think the thing is some people will say things and be like, you need to get over it. I'm like, you can't tell me how to grieve. I mean, it could be a day that I'm fine and then all of a sudden I break. But you can't tell me how to grieve. And I think that's the big thing is I'm okay with feeling what I feel. And my grief is gonna look totally different from somebody else.
Mhm. And I agree with that 100%. There is no expiration date on grief. I don't know why people feel like that. It can it's not to say not to move on with your life because you can move on with your life, but then it could be 10 years from now and you could just hear a song that reminded you of that person and you had that moment, or somebody wears a perfume that somebody you lost wear and it just takes you back into that moment. So I do agree is people have their own ways of grieving and there is no expiration date. One thing that you said, which leads me into my next question, was your relationship with God, had changed a little bit. And so the next question is, how did your loss affect your relationship with God or your faith? I know for me, I was kind of, I was kind of angry with God, but I was like, okay, God, no, let me say this. I wanted to be angry with God, right? But it's like, but who am I to question you because you're God? But for a couple of years, I carried this why my son wasn't the one to survive. It was for people in the car. Why? Not saying that I wanted the other children to lose their life, but I'm human, right? So it was like, why wasn't he that one that made it through, and so I curried that for a while, and it's like I kept moving and I kept my faith strong, but I felt like for a while I was kind of like a fake Christian because it's like, God, I'm serving you, but you was wrong. I'm serving you, but why you do this to me? Or why? And then I had moments where I struggled with my faith of why I'm gonna keep serving you and you took my son. Like why I'm gonna keep serving you and I'm feeling this pain. And it wasn't until guys like 2 years ago when I started practicing ministry and it was during our convocation and everything I just feel like works together for a reason. That year we were supposed to be ordained, and something happened with the service where our bishop decided. I'm not going to ordain you, take you all the way through there this go around. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the name. So it was like a naming ceremony, right? And I remember him praying over us and giving us the title and saying, I'm gonna watch you for a year and see how you do before I really let you cross all the way over. And I didn't know I needed that, right? I didn't know I needed that, but I carried that in my heart of like, I'm still kind of mad at God, and then I want to sit up here and say, I'm gonna serve you and I'm gonna lead other people to you. And it wasn't until I'll never forget Pastor Renee Winston had preached at our convocation that year, and she said, some of y'all mad and won't even ask God why. Y'all think that y'all not supposed to ask God why, and you going through what you going through right now. Some of y'all do have a why. And she was like, it's not a sin to be mad or to ask God why. And I'm sitting here looking at this lady like, are you serious? It's not like, are you in that ceremony? I released it. Like, I don't think I cried so many tears that weekend when that lady told me I could ask God why, you know. So then that became my why, like, why God, why did you do this? Why God, why did you do that? Why did you? And it all was like, do you know how bad this hurt me? Do you know what I'm carrying? You know, but that became my why. And so so the anger that I did have towards God, I was able to turn it back into faith, because once I asked God why, he had to show me, girl, you remember when you was pregnant with this child and you almost had a couple of miscarriages and you was in the ER and you asked me to give you your baby and I gave you your baby and I did this and I did that. And it went to like, you know what, God, you right, I did pray and ask you to let me know my child, let me, because you could have took him way back then, but you gave me that time with him. So I'm thankful for them. Then I had to get biblical and say, who am I to be mad at you for taking my son after you gave me 20 something years with him, right? And you let your own son come here and die for everybody. You know, you gave your son up for all of us. So, who, you know, and I had to look at it in that light, not to say that I think that it's I'm not saying that I'm a prophet or trying to be prophetic, but I'm just saying, and you know, biblically I'm looking at what you did for me and by giving your own son, and then I lose my son and I'm questioning you why, but you did give him to me for a short period of time. Then it went to how many women have curried and never met their child, how many women have tried to conceive and couldn't have a child. So the blessing was, and not that lesson was, you was able to conceive, you curried, I let you get to know him, and then when I called him back home, and then I said, you got a sense of humor because he died when he was 21. And I said, God, give me my baby. But at 21, when we say they a man, so it was time for you to go back to heaven. But you know, I had him. So that's just how my faith changed a little bit. But it was weak and then it went back to being strong. Karen, would you like to share?
Ooh, that was a lot. Yeah. Well, different scenarios. I know I mentioned my brother and my dog and everything, but you just made reminded me of exactly that. I had to just kind of go and have a heart to heart with my pastor and just talk about that. But every single time when he makes his when he preaches about certain things, he talked about the why. But I just had to ask, you know, just all the scenarios that I had going on in life and all the grievances I had, from my fiance to my brother to my grandmother to my dog to, you know, another brother passing, and previous griefs within them. And speaking at other avenues, even speaking at, you know, I mean, even speaking for a student that I had, I know you might have experienced that too, is you got to look at basically, I guess, the time that you have with the person. It takes a long time to realize, one minute they're there and it's like next minute you're not. There was a scenario that I had a student when it was funny that one of the teachers here said she taught in Charles County. I remember me teaching in Charles County, and I had to speak up at a visual for one of my students, and I just saw her before school let out. And the same thing happened. She died in a car accident that summer, and she was one of my proteges. And I was asked to come back to speak with her. And I had to, before I went out there to the visual, I had to ask God to give me the words of what to say, because I just gave her a hug. I just saw her graduation. You know, I commended her. I wrote her recommendations with high school. And then to find out that happened, I didn't even know the words. So he had to give me every single thing to do. He had to get me up that morning. He had to get me to the spot where we all stood, where she passed at, and he had to give me every single word. And I had to get everything out on faith and just tell me to go through each and every word, each and every step, give me something I needed to say, because I had no words. And the biggest thing was him just raising me up from speaking about her, where I actually brought different pictures and different drawings that she had in my class. And I just said, okay, well, you have to give me God the words, because this right here, I don't understand. You know, she was just beginning her life in high school, or trying to. So maybe you know more than me, but you know, you got to help me through this. I don't know what to say. You know, I got all these people in front of me, which are, before they came, you just got to give me that scenario, what to say, what to preach about. And I just had to leave everything on God's hands. And I said, God, I'm going to lead. You know, you're going to lead me. I'm going to follow everything you say. And you know the reason for everything because you know what's going to go on before I do. So please help me through every step, every word, every moment that I can sit here and talk about it with me. And please help me not break down in front of thousands of people that's going to be out there that I have to speak in front of. So my faith got even stronger to help me through every aspect of that grief, any type of loss that I had. I just had to just keep on just getting closer to God and getting closer to the word. And it's a little bit more stronger now than it was when I was an undergrad and graduate. And I guess when things happen, people go to their friends, but a lot of times is people don't go to God and ask God, you know, help me through this, or why did it actually happen? Or just explain to me, how am I going to get through this? And I appreciate you waking me up, but when I have to do things that I don't want to do or things happen, help me through why this had to happen or help me through my next step. And so that's what I mean. My faith got even more stronger.
Mhm.
And then also bridging that on to education, we have to mold these kids every single day. So we have to, and then the next day I had to go into school. So I mean, I always have to sit here and be that positive leader to kids, but they don't realize that we actually need some of that time so somebody can give us that, as they say, Jesus juice, or that reoccurring. We actually need to wake up each day and come into another class to teach or even to talk to individuals we don't want to talk to, but we got to lead to God, just tell God to give it to us. And that's why I always think of that scripture. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I mean, I say that every day, and I've gone into this 21st year of teaching, and I still got to say it because that's my way to motivate. He just tells me what I need to do. I mean, I'm going to continue. He leads me, and I'm going to continue to follow.
Thank you. Melissa, would you like to share?
Welcome.
The only thing I was gonna say, because I did talk about a little bit about that, is even though that time period I did have the anger and the guilt, but now I look at that faith and the strength that God has given me to get through so much and so many things that I've seen and been able to look at. Because sometimes it was one time when I was like, oh my gosh. I said, God, you gave me the strength to do all of this. And so I'm thankful for that because I honestly, I always used to say, well, you take my daddy, I'm gonna be no, but I'm like, I'm grateful. This is all God right here sitting. It's all God, and I'm grateful and thankful for that.
Thank you. Natea?
Um, I don't think it changed my relationship with God. I've been raised in a church. That's what my family. That's all we know, right? So for me, I understood that. The only thing I will say is that I did look at certain people that are still here. And it's not for me to say that they don't deserve to be here, but I feel like there is, and not that I want people to pass on, but I was looking around saying like there is so many other ones that you could have took, Lord, because of just, who they show up as in every day, who they show up as every day. And again, it's not my judgment call. I do understand that, but it didn't really weaken my relationship with him. I did ask why did he choose to take her when I wasn't there? But at the same time, I knew my mother was tired, right? Like I knew she was tired. I knew she didn't want to live like that. So even though did not want to lose her, me wanting to me me wanting to keep her here and the pain that she was experiencing and dealing with would have been just selfish of me. So I understood that the Lord called her home because it was time, and it's because she wasn't living the life that she would have wanted to have lived. And so for me, I just kind of my conversation is more so like, well, why did you choose her over this person, so to speak? And then I didn't hold on to that for long. I did have that conversation with myself, but then again, I realized like, who am I to say that? So I had to let that go. And I think more so like I think I'm more thankful more than anything. And I mean, I always talk to God, but I talk to him a lot more. And I'm always, when I get up in the morning and I'm going about my day, I just thank him for like, it could be smell, touch, see, hear, it could be anything. Cause I mean, you'd be surprised at how these little five senses, if you lose one or the other, how that would change your life drastically. So if it's just me being able to get up and walk, because I mean, life can change in a blink of an eye. your health can change in a blink of an eye. Anything can change in a blink of an eye. So for me, my faith is still steadfast. I don't have any real gripe with God. I'm not angry with him. I understand that, he gave me my mom and I did what I did. What I'm trying to say, I managed my relationship with my mom the way I managed my relationship with my mom, and and when it was time for her to leave us, that that's what it was, and I just had to make peace with that. Don't again know why it was the way that it was, so I guess that's probably the other question I asked him, but I don't really have any gripes with him. I just know that now I just realized now she's an angel and she's looking over me, and so that's how I take it. Like I have two angels above that's going to look over me and keep me covered as I continue to move forward in life. So that's where I am in my in that in respects to that.
I love it. Like you said, so where some of us may have got a little worried with our faith, it made yours even stronger. So I love the fact that you shared that. Um,
Mhm.
how would you like for your loved one to be remembered? What is something special if you wanted to, well, no, let me switch this up a little bit. If you could have a conversation with your loved one, what is something that you would want your loved one to know about you today? And I'll start with
Mhm.
Melissa.
I know the words that he said to me, and when he constantly said that he's proud of me, that is what keeps me going. Um, I've done, we're continue to live on his legacy. Um, we're doing good. Everybody's doing good. Um, he's actually pushed us probably more, um, pushed us more. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about him. Um, and yeah, I'm living life in a different way, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. Karen, what is something if you could have a conversation with someone that you lost that you would want them to know about you today?
Um, Take every day to the fullest and live the way you want to live it, but God is first in your life. And go hard for your family because family's always first. You have your friends, but your family's always going to be there.
Matea, what is something that you would share with a loved one that you lost if you can speak with them today?
Something I would share with a loved one that I would well, from my brother, I would just tell him that you're not a burden. You wouldn't have been a burden. It would have been okay for you to share what you was going through with us. We would have supported you and loved on you. Because he kept it from us for a long time until it was time for him to kind of leave us. And so we only had 6 months to get it together, and that's no time when you're trying to get it together, right? So, and that yeah, like, love him to pieces and just what she was hearing. From my mom, I would want her to know that, and I said this to her before, that I truly am sorry for not being there for her in her time of need. But me and where I am right now, I want her to know that I miss her immensely. Um, I feel lonely without her. Um, but I know that she's watching me and I know that I have to go on and I am slowly but surely letting her go, right? So that way she can, you know, be at home in peace. Because I know she doesn't want me down here, not, stressing about her. And that I know that I will be okay. I know that, you know. But yeah, so I think those are the things I would want to tell her. I think she kind of already knows that. But yeah, yeah, I think that's what I want her to know.
If I could have a conversation with a loved one, I will go back first to my sister Selena, and I will let her know that your girls are grown. and you're a grandmother of two beautiful boys, and they look just like you. So every day I look at them, I see her. When I look at them, I see her. If I could go back to my son Anthony and have a conversation with him, I would just tell him that everything I do every day, the hustle, the grind is for him. That I just want to make him proud of me. Um, I would tell him that he is just my motivation for everything that I do, and that I see him, and just let him know that I don't care where we was at in life, how mad I ever got at him. That he will always be my baby, and
Mhm.
that and I miss him. I miss him. I would and yeah, I would just tell him that I miss him. I'm sorry, guys. Um, but that is something that I would tell him if I could have that conversation today. My next question is, did your relationship change with family or friends after your loss? And if so, can you give like a little example of how it changed? Uh, Karen, I'll
Um,
start with you.
Can you say that question again?
Did after your loss, did your relationship with your family or friends change? Did any of your relationships change with anybody after you lost someone? How did it affect some relationships, the Lord?
Um, let's see. Trying to figure out which one. It was a lot of different losses, so it's hard to actually kind of put into words. I would say when it came to the dog, um, it was a different experience because I guess not to say I was in line, but everybody in my family, their dogs died. So I guess it was not to say a matter of time. It was for my dog to die, but it was like everybody's dog. In fact, my mother's dog died, and my sister's dog died, and then my dog died. So it brought us, I guess, all together in that aspect to know what it feels like to have an animal die in the family. Speaking of being a dog, so it just grew closer when we would talk about it and have different you know adventures or what happened, and try to experience of, okay, well, how are you dealing with how we actually talk more and have those conversations of what happened afterwards. So we grew closer with that aspect when it came to the loss of an animal. But when it came to as far as my brother, when we would talk about afterwards at the repast that we had for him, it was, try not to think of, the bad times. Think of basically, this is how he wanted to live. He went out the way he wanted to go out. um yes, he had the avenue of all my sisters saying that, yeah, he was stubborn, but he wanted to live his life the way he wanted to live it. And so I guess when we have those conversations at Christmas or family reunions, or even if we're just getting together as a family, we talk about, find one, like I said before, find one thing that you knew that he wanted to do in life. He didn't want, that's why I said family first. He didn't want to ask for help, and I lean on my family, but not too much to the extent of, asking for a lot of stuff. But it's like family is always going to be there before any friends or anything. And it brought us closer together where just know every day is not promised, but enjoy the blessing that you have every day to get up. Thank God for just the littlest things. So it can be, I can be driving down the street or walking in a grocery store. I just thank God for whatever happens. Something, oh, okay, I'm walking and I see $1. Oh my God, that was definitely God doing that. When things start to happen and things are getting rough or crazy, and then next to know this happens, where okay, next to know God took care of it before you even thought about it, or all of a sudden things got better. So just enjoy everything that comes your way, because it's a blessing from him, because he knows everything before we know it. So ultimately, we just get together and we just talk and reminisce about all the good stuff that happened in any type of loss that we've had, because we've had numerous losses, but just looking at the good things about it, and just and appreciating the time that we still have on earth, and then just knowing that every day is cherished, every day is a blessing.
Thank you for sharing, Natalia.
um, so relationships. So, whew, uh, there was some challenging relationships to manage. There was I had to worry about my mom's sister, one of her sisters that was really close to her, my sister, and my brother. When it came to my brother passing away, my sister is very opinionated. I'll put it to you this way. Yeah, my sister's very opinionated, and so she had an opinion on how things should have been done. And, my sister is very big on, family being family, right? And so, I think even with my mom and my brother and my mom passing away, my sister wasn't really gung-ho about the way that I went about celebrating their life, right? She wasn't on board with it. This is not what she wanted to do. And so because we have a good relationship, I thank her for being able to, what's the word, compromise. But there were conversations of like, okay, I'm trying to understand how you're feeling, what you're thinking. I'm trying to take that in consideration. When at the end of the day, I'm a strong-minded person and my strong-minded individual too. And so in my mind, I'm like, this is happening regardless of whether you want it to or not, but I'm going to hear you out, right? Like, I didn't want this person to sing, or I'll say when it came to losing my mom, I felt like I was in a place of just loss because I just lost my brother. I'm losing my mom, and then I was in this relationship with this gentleman, and that was going downhill too. So I was just mourning a lot of different things, and my emotions were just in five different places, and he wasn't really um there the way I needed him to be. Well, at least I felt like that. And so, and a lot of people don't understand, and maybe, this, I don't know if this is something to say right now, but a lot of people don't understand that people grieve differently, right? Like you can't expect me to need you the way you want me to need you. You can't expect me to grieve the way you expect me to like the way you want me to grieve. So I would say the only relationship that really, really majorly was affected, if I'm being truly honest, was the relationship with the gentleman that I was dealing with, because the relationship that me and my brothers and my sister had, even though they may not have agreed with what I wanted to do, because I am the oldest and they respect me in that capacity, and understood that this wasn't about me, you, or anybody else, it was about them, and they needed to be celebrated. They deserve that they obliged me. But people talk, people murmur, people, and I just blocked it out because I know at the end of the day, I felt like I did what they would have wanted me to do. I don't know if I did it exactly how they wanted me to do, but I did. I know that they would have wanted to be celebrated, and to do anything other than that would have been unjust to me. So I think that was, it was harder when my mom passed because I felt like I was mourning my mom and also mourning someone that I was, in a really in a loving relationship with. And it was just the fight for the battle, the fight, just fighting and arguing, and just a lot of just upset. And it was just a very overwhelming time. So, and I had to block them out, and that was hard for me to do, but it was needed.
Thank you. And I like the fact that you recognize, you said that he, everybody grieves differently. I like that you said that your family, even though they may not have agreed with everything you did, they respected the process. They respected you as the big sister. You had difficulties in during that moment, but you all were able to recognize that and still come together. And I think a lot of times families they struggle with when it comes down to that. It's sad to say we had people that fight over money. We had people that want to fight over property, and the body's not even cold yet, and the ground yet cremated yet. Not to sound harsh or anything,
Mhm.
but that's the reality of it, right? And if so many people create the family grudges where they can't see past the grudge, and to the fact that you're looking at obituaries and they're omitting people out of the obituaries on purpose, just because they're still harboring something. I done seen so much through people through loss of others, through the loss of other people eyes, and it's just it's sad that that happens a lot. But I'm thankful that you didn't have to experience that experience, and that your family was able to look at that in a different way. And I pray that someone who's watching this recording would take that from that, and realize that in the end it does not have to be like that. So I'm thankful for you sharing. Melissa, you like to share?
So with the relationships, as far as everything, I feel it's just me and my sister. And my mom and my dad were married and then they divorced. So she had a little bit of a say on things, but she pretty much gave it to me and my sister, and I'm the oldest. So it was very, I mean, of course, there were some things that, we might have disagreed on, but I feel like that for the most part, we did very good. I feel like even to this day, I feel like we're closer than we ever have been. Because, it's basically just the two of us. Now, the negative part was, some, I mean, we didn't have the family support like we probably should have. And I think, and some friend support that it was kind of like an eye opener to us. Because we know that we were there for them for situations and stuff like that. And that was some things that I kind of felt like I went through. Um, Grieving the loss of my dad, but also grieving the loss of relationships too, because of what happened. It was almost like you ghosted me. And literally, I'm like, when I need you the most, you're not there. So it did bother me, but now I'm a whole lot better with the situation because I'm like, that was a seasonal situation. So God, God did his part as far as helping remove the situations, and I'm good. So for the most part, I feel like everything is better, a lot better, and everything worked out. And I think that was the thing that a little thing, the blocking of people, even family and friends, kind of was a issue for me. But then it was like, you know what? You didn't need that stress. You didn't need that headache. You didn't need all the extra stuff to deal with because you were already dealing with losing your dad. You didn't need the extra stuff. So I think that was a lot helpful. So
You
it
said two
wasn't as bad
powerful
as I thought.
things. You said two powerful things in that as well. You said I was grieving my loved one who I lost, and now I'm grieving family members and relationships in the midst of that. Grief started grieving, because people just didn't understand at that time what you were going through, or some, for me, it did change some relationships, and I'm being very vulnerable right
Mhm.
now. For me, it changed some relationships. I was angry, and I could say at times it was probably some misplaced anger because I lost a loved one, and it's safe to say that. Um, I remember being so angry, and I feel like I just moved past this, and I actually talk about this in my book that when my son died and I looked around to see who was there and who wasn't there. And that just made me so angry because you feel like certain people should have been there, right? They should have been there for you. And I remember a family member telling me that another family member who I expected to show up for me wasn't there. And the reason why they said, well, they felt like they really didn't know him, didn't know your son. And I don't think people realize that you wasn't coming for him. He dead. He don't need you, baby. He dead. He don't need nobody right now. He dead, And it's not to say it like that, but that's where I'm at in the moment. He's dead. He don't need you. I needed you. I needed to see you. I needed to know. I just needed to feel that you cared. I just needed you to just be there to just tell me it was gonna be okay. Just to tell me you see me. Just I needed you. And because of that, young ladies, I can tell you guys, I was so angry, and it wasn't until recently I was able to release that anger and say, you know what, don't be angry because that person wasn't. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I think what hurt the most was when somebody else passed away and I seen them show up at their funeral, and I'm like, what is this? You here for this? Show up for me. So then, and then I had to stop being angry because I was like, you know what? Now I'm turning it into it being about me. So I was like, and I didn't want that. I didn't want to turn it into it being about the show about me. But at the time, I did need you, and you weren't there. And so, and I was able later on to have a conversation and tell that person, like, that hurt me, and that just went back to me being a effective communicator to say, you know what, I need to mature in this way. Let me pick up the phone. Let me not keep harboring the anger because the relationship, as long as I harbor this anger in me, the relationship not gonna get better. And so I picked up the phone and I had that courageous conversation. But I will say, and some of my family members might be upset because I'm saying this, but I do feel like when it comes down to my family and it comes down to dealing with grief, that we, instead of us really gravitate into the help we need, we tend to get angry. We tend to get mad. We tend to be mean. Instead versus getting the help that we need. So that is something that I'm definitely praying for when it comes down to my family in general. That God helps us to be able to redirect those feelings in a different way and not always let it come out in anger or a cause of us being mean. We already lost one person, so we don't need to be grieving and losing other people. If you still walking around on this earth, I shouldn't be grieving the loss of you. We should be able to connect. It's just a conversation, even if we agreeing to disagree. That's just one grief I don't want to feel. So I thank you, ladies, for sharing that. Uh, this is a lot to unpack um, tonight. So, what have you learned about yourself through this experience? Can you share one thing that you've learned about yourself through this experience? And I'll start with, well, Natalia, you look like you thinking. You ready? Or you
I can
need?
answer. I can
Okay,
answer. I can answer.
okay.
So, what have I learned about myself through this experience? Well, if I'm being really, really transparent and honest, that I'm not necessarily who I think I am. Sometimes you believe that you show up in certain capacities, but you really realize that you didn't, right? And you have to have those real conversations with yourself and be like, did I, like, for instance, I know that I could have spent more time with my mom, right? And so I think that's one of the things that also was kind of a guilt trip of mine, is saying that you should have, been a better daughter in that sense. Like I have those conversations with myself, and I often question if my mother knew how much I loved her, and knew how sorry I was for not being there. Did she hear me when I was talking to her? Because my sister had FaceTime me when I was in Jamaica, and I was saying goodbye to her via FaceTime. So I think for me, just really being really honest with myself, and saying, are you really who you think you are? And if you're not, that's okay. The first step is to acknowledge that, and then work to be that person with others, so that way you don't make the same mistake again. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, I think that's what this taught me, is that I probably am not showing up as I think I am, and I need to reassess me so I can show up the way that I intend to show up.
Thank you, Melissa.
I like that she said that because that's something that I was thinking about as well because in the process, you do lose yourself. And I was just talking to my daughter today and we were talking about this podcast, and she was like, "Yeah, you're not really going back to normal. It's this new normal." So it's just evaluating myself and trying to be more intentional about myself. Because through this process, even though it was my dad that I lost, and I kept saying my dad, I was worried about everybody else first. And I need to start checking in on myself and be there for myself and to be true to myself. So that's one thing that I'm working on, and I know I need to continue to work on.
Okay. Karen, you mind sharing? What have you learned?
From my grievances that I've had in my life and losses, so many different aspects. You take away something from every aspect of what you lose and what you grieve with. Um, and I guess if you can all just put it together and then just put it into that big old pot, and you just learn kind of like the stuff that's happened throughout each and every grief and every loss. And I would say that, whew, that's that's a hard question. Um, because every aspect of what you grieve and what you lost is different.
Correct.
So it's so hard to say what you would do better or what you would do more. It's just trying to handle it in a better way, better than you did the last. That's the only thing I can think of, because just like every day is different, every grievance is different, every loss is different. And just trying to find ways through it, to help yourself go through it the best way you can. Um, so I guess depending on what happens or what goes on, it's are you gonna let it hold you to be in a pity party for a while, or are you gonna take something from what you lost and make it in some term better for you somehow, or do better the next time? Like I said, with my brother, what we're going through now, the family with his strokes, I'm trying to make sure I spend more time with him, even though it's getting hard to see him like that. He's like my Superman. I try to just make it an effort to spend time with him, and just to, remember the times he was, that Superman, and remember the stuff that he's done. And then just show him that, again, it can always be worse, but I'm glad that you're here. Just letting you know, just to cherish that you're here. And I'm glad that I can do for you and do things for you. And then, like I said, it can always be worse. So always think of the positive. So my thing is just trying to instill and infuse that positive, and then just try to carry it in that way. And then just know that, just to be there for him. And then, just to take it the best way you can take it. It's just hard to explain it, or say it without actually kind of breaking down myself. But it's just, every grief and every loss is going to take a piece from you. So you just got to kind of let it not like break you down. You got to find ways to see if it'll build you up and to make you into a stronger, better woman and person, where you can actually take from it and learn something from it, and just, kind of find your way through it to do it the best way you can.
One thing the biggest thing I've learned is that I learned not to take things for granted. I learned that time is not promised to us. And I learned that stuff gonna happen and life is going life, right? But while stuff is happening, while life is life in, I learned to check on your people. I learned if I'm thinking about you, let me reach out to you. And I definitely, when I say not take life for granted, I heard a couple of you say just being thankful that you woke up this morning. It's like he's 21, I'm in my 50s. He's not here. He didn't make it this far. So to be able to say that I made it to my 50s, to be able to thank God for waking up, then I'm like, I can see, I can feel, I can touch, I can taste. So this has definitely taught me to appreciate the little things. And then I think the biggest lesson for me is sometimes the smallest wins are the best wins. We always want to wait until we get all the way up here before we start celebrating, right? But we got to start celebrating right here where we are. And so and where we at. So I'm definitely learning to just appreciate life as it goes on. I every day I want to learn something different. I want to touch somebody. So I'm just learning how to navigate life. And Melissa, you said something so powerful when you said your daughter said it's a new norm. Life never goes back to the way it was. So when you lose somebody every day, you're readjusting and you're learning how to live again. But you're learning how to live again without that person. And so yeah, that just we're learning. We still learning. We're gonna be learning until the day we die. We're in education. We go teach somebody something. And sometimes the students become the teachers. So you look at how they navigate through life, and working in education, we see a lot of heartache. You see a lot of pain, and sometimes they are the teachers because you're saying to yourself, if an 8-year-old Johnny can navigate the fact that his mom or dad is not here anymore, he's teaching us something, teaching us how to move forward. So yeah, that's just what I've learned. Have you discovered a new purpose because of your loss? Have you guys discovered a new purpose because of your loss? And I'll ask Kern first.
It's piggybacking on what you just actually said. I just I take it as I'm gonna celebrate my little successes. It can be the littlest thing. Um, exactly what you said. I just got to say it again. Just celebrate your little successes. It might be the littlest things. Um, and just don't take life for granted. That's why I always say, live life every day like your last. And we always say protecting our peace. But when you experience so much of any type of grief, any type of loss, it can just be the smallest things. Just be happy with it, and just keep on celebrating, big or small. Celebrate the small wins just like you celebrate a big win.
Love it. I love it. Natalia.
A new purpose. I wouldn't say I necessarily found a new purpose because I always kind of already, well, to be honest with you, if I'm really being frank, I'm still talking to God and trying to figure out my purpose. If I'm really being honest, I'm in that transition right now. I've just been talking to God a lot and just trying to really figure out what my purpose is and what my gift, like I think I know what my gift is, but how am I going to take that, cultivate that, and where am I going to utilize that at the most? So for me, I'm still in discovery mode if I'm just being honest. And so I don't know what that would be, but I know that I desire to know it more than ever. And so my journey continues. And so hopefully I will be able to figure out what that is, and that will then obviously ignite that new purpose in me because I will discover what that is, and then I'll be on that journey to fulfill that.
Thank you. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for being vulnerable. And thank you for sharing. Melissa?
Yes.
You're welcome.
One thing I was gonna say about what you just said, remember, my phrase is always I'm a work in progress. So I feel like no matter how old I'm gonna get, I'm gonna still find new things about myself and try, and that's the journey. That's a learning journey. Um, for me, it would be the whole live life to the fullest. Don't wait till you're 70 because you might not see 70.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Um, if there's things and desires that you want to do, try your hardest to get it to do it. Um, you just enjoy life and enjoy yourself. Find the different things that you like. Find your happiness, whatever, and remember, your happiness may not be the same as somebody else's happiness. Um, if it's I want to just go get some ice cream, it's okay. Um, so just remember, just enjoy what you can. And you can't change everything. You can't control it all. Just enjoy.
Yeah. And one thing you just said when you said try everything, try new things and live life to the fullest, that just took me back to a conversation that me and Karen had yesterday when we were just talking about, trying some new things and some new things we wanted to do this summer and everything. And I'm like, you know what? That's just confirmation to me and Karen that we supposed to go to them places. Then she said
Don't
we seen
wait.
yesterday, so I'm thankful for that. I don't, and so for me, I'm not going to say I found a new spiritual purpose with this, but I do believe that the one purpose I found was I used to be a fighter, mean, cut you, tell you off about yourself person, and I'm loving who I am right now. I'm not that person anymore. And again, still a work in progress, right? So right now and then I be wanting to go back and be like, what? But I don't do it. However, with that being said, in losing my son, I do feel like that was part of my purpose. Where so now I am able to look at somebody else going through and be like, girl, you could tell them this not the end. They got this. They can do this. Like, don't stay there too long. Or sis, why we mad? Why we mad? We can agree to disagree and we can move on. I can okay, I was wrong. I offended you. I'm sorry. I can apologize. So I feel like the purpose for me was maturing and realizing things about myself that wasn't right and being able to accept those things that and to work on them. Like you said, I'm still a work in progress. But if I had not experienced death of losing someone so close to me, I wouldn't be living like life too short. I need to go apologize. I probably would still be in that mentality of, man, talk to me. I ain't tripping. I will need you anyway. But it has moved it has moved me from that. So I do feel like that's my purpose. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for this conversation and joining me at the table. Before I let you go, I like to ask all of my guests this question. What is one thing you are leaving at the table today? And what is one thing you are picking up? And I'll start with Melissa.
The guilt, the different questions of the guilt, and even questioning God. I'm leaving that there because I'm flesh. And so um just forgiving myself for that. And I think that was the really thing that I picked up. And that's one of the things I want to end with is I think the hardest thing for all of us probably is forgiving ourselves. And that's what I'm trying to make sure I forgive myself first because the hardest part is moving forward and having anything that I can forgive you, but I'm still holding on to things that I am not forgiving myself with. And being happy, and understanding that even though I lost them physically, they're with me every day. And I appreciate that too.
Thank you. Karen, what is one thing you're picking up from the table and taking with you, and one thing that you're leaving at the table?
Picking up from the table is moving forward. Just keep on moving forward, trust that process, and leaving at the table is overthinking.
Let's go with overthinking. Natalia, what is something that you're leaving at the table and that you're picking up from the table?
Leaving at the table. I got a couple things I need to let go, but
Leave it all at the table.
I
Leave it
got a
all
couple
at
things I
the
need.
table.
That table might be full, okay?
No
I would
judgment.
probably say I'm with Karen with overthinking because I'm such an overthinker. My brain is you can smell it smoking. My brain is always churning, seriously. And I would probably say I'm working on because I like to try to be as transparent as possible. I'm working on taking at least some of the whys and the guilt of not being there and all those questions that I have and just leaving that at the table because I know that can be consuming and that can consume you. What am I taking from the table? I probably would say, that you know what? It's okay. It's okay that you're struggling. It's okay that you are having a hard time bouncing back. It's okay, I mean, I know I'm not the only one that's experienced grief, but sometimes when you go through this by yourself, you sometimes think you're alone in the feelings that you're having. And you're not, you know what I'm saying to you. It is okay that may look okay on the outside, but like you said, might hear a song and be in the car crying, and you're like, where did this come from? Like I was just fine like 5 minutes ago. So yeah, I'm gonna take that from the table. Yeah.
Okay. One thing I am picking up from the table is a few things that you guys said. Like we said, we grieve for different things, and just realizing that we will have those moments, but we will be okay not to stay there. It's okay for family to have a disagreement on how something is done, but at the end of the day, it's the mutual respect at the end. So I'm definitely taking that away from the table tonight. One thing, what I am leaving at the table is I want to leave anxiety at the table, and and that goes back to you guys saying overthinking, and so that's where anxiety comes in with me because I'm definitely an overthinker as well. I'm just always thinking and analyzing and having these conversations that I don't have with other people with myself. So I definitely want to leave those things at the table tonight. So that's what I'll be leaving at the table. So again, I just want to thank you ladies for joining me tonight for tonight's podcast. I want to thank you ladies for being open and vulnerable and sharing your story with us. I just want to thank you for just the inspiration that you're going to give somebody else that's going to watch this, and the hope that you're going to give somebody else that's watching this. And I also want to thank the viewers who will be watching this podcast as well. And remember, there will always be a seat at the table for you. Have a great night.